solo potty.
Yeah, it's been a while, hey?
Yeah.
It's probably been like, I don't know, like 15 podcasts ago or something. I think maybe our first two were solo.
Yeah.
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 Feels good. Feels easy to edit.
So much easier.
Yeah. So we recently got back from Sydney, did our latest IMS course. IMS is Integrated Movement Science, level 3, which is crazy because like years ago, I just never imagined myself really getting that far in it.
Yeah, me too. I never thought I was smart enough. I was like, oh, fuck, like, whoa, he's a level 3 or...
Yeah.
I mean, well, it used to be level 3. It'll be level 2 now in Check A.
Yeah.
Like IMS 3. So there's an extra level. It goes up to level 5 where it used to go to level 4.
Yeah.
But I'd look at Donald or someone like that and I'd be like, fuck, there's no way.
Well, there's only two in Australia, I think, isn't it? Donald and Matt?
I think there might be
A third?
a third.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll be up there as the 4th and 5th one day.
Yeah, I was thinking one more, man, like next year when we do IMS 4, that'll be same level as Jan. Jan did level 3, I think.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, for me, that's just like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of hard work, a lot of money's been put into it, but it's just so cool.
Yeah, it's cool having freedom with studying in some way because, you know, they're just a really intense 5-day courses. Like the one we just did was all about spinal pathology. So we went heavy into disc bulges, heavy into what the spine actually is, which is pretty cool. Like not just that's that part and that's that part, but like what is it there for? From imagining you are God creating this perfect structure. It's like it's everything's just perfect. Hey, it's amazing. Like how we went
It's
into
crazy how it works.
and it's crazy what we remember, like the discs, how type. So the center of the disc was type 1 collagen, wasn't it? And then I believe so. And then the outside of the disc was type 2 collagen. And type 1 collagen is resistant to compression, and type 2 collagen is resistant to tension. So stretch basically. And you think, how amazing is that? That the center of the disc does get compressed, the outside of the disc gets stretched, which is what most sort of disc bulges, come from a flexion and twist, and how it's perfectly designed for that, and how also, how eating collagen, you just start to like see more like, fuck, it is so important that we should be eating collagen. We should be cooking animals, broths, all those sort of things that people are lacking.
Yeah, for sure. And like, how do they even study that? How do they even, find out, do the studies to find out that type 1 collagen goes in one bit and one goes in the other? Like, I always think that like science is smart, but it can't be that smart, man. The body is way too smart. It's like extracting like, vitamin A. This could be wrong, but vitamin A out of an apple or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's so much more inside that apple that we just, on a molecular level, we might not understand.
Oh, when I filmed that thing at the markets yesterday, man, at the end of the video, I'll upload it, sometime this week. And I was talking about like all this stuff here right in front of me. This basket of color is more than just calories, and it's more than just even what we do know, more than just vitamin C and B and all this shit. It's like it was alive, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it was in the soil and stars, and it wasn't just. You can't just grab all that shit and do it and think that we'll see everything, because we could be looking over here and it could be doing something over here. So there's no way you could ever really quantify it with science. And maybe in a fucking million years from now, we could get that accurate.
Yeah.
But I doubt it.
Yeah, I know. I doubt it. Like, I mean, they just threw all the brain study out the window. This was like 10 years ago. They said,
true.
We don't know anything.
True.
So I think like you get to a point where you just can't understand things.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're smart as fuck, obviously. Like we've gathered information. We know that, especially like medical drugs are amazing. But yeah, I think there's so much more to it than we think. And I think as a species, we're getting sicker, obviously, and getting smarter. So,
you know what I took from that course? It was so complex, right? But I took that what I was doing was the right thing anyway. And in the end, it's so complex, but in the end, it's still simple, which Walden talks about, finding the simplicity amongst the complexity. So, we saw like, if a disc goes this way, you meant to do this motion, and it extends and flexes, and so when it was in extension, if the spine's in extension, it rotates and side bends to the opposite way, doesn't it? Is that right? Yeah. And in flexion, it does it to the same way.
Yep. Ipsilateral, I think.
Yeah. So all these things, but in the end, you still got to get someone's pelvis accurate level, well, within the norms. Make sure there's no twists. Make sure they got a core. You know what I mean? All these little things, the SI joint, the disc, it still came back down to fucking like
the basics.
The basics.
That's why I love the check system so much, man. It just simplifies it. It doesn't have to be. Everyone's trying to outsmart one another, and it's like the basics, the fundamentals are working. You know, Paul's done this with thousands of clients, and it works for everyone that he's worked with. If you follow his model, I really do believe it's so amazing. I mean, obviously you get your own little bits and pieces and things like that, and create your own stuff. But once I started trusting the work, I was like, fuck, wow.
Yeah, the concepts.
I think, what I took from that course was understanding more so, like I still use the same thing, but now I understand it more why I would give them that. And I'm thinking like, oh, well, that would work, to create force closure in the pelvis, or I can visualize it a lot more now.
Yeah.
Understanding the spine and what it does and where it flexes and rotates, and there's not much rotation in the lumbar spine, and just there's so much to it though.
Yeah. And how Susie talks about, well, it's still the pain teacher though. Like, they're meant to be doing this, but if it causes them pain, then they're not meant to be doing that. And she goes, after all these years of whatever, 30 something years in the industry, I've come to the conclusion that there's no program for something really. You know what I mean?
No.
As in this, it's whoever's in front of you all the time.
Yeah.
And because we take so much information from people, like we take everything, man, like lumbar curve, thoracic curve, rotation, all this sort of stuff. You really start to learn off their body and think, okay, if they're not rotating that way, how can I get them to rotate that way? And what pain would it cause them if they can't rotate that way in their function? You know?
Yeah. And on that note, like I think that it's so important to, like, that's why I love the deep tissue stuff. And that's why I love that forward head posture program and the other ones that we've done, is because it allows you to be intuitive. Like there's no one way.
Yeah.
So like when people write in and they say, what program to get, I think like any of them really are going to benefit them, because like it's going to teach them a relationship with their body that they've never had before.
Yeah. I tell them, because people like, how do I maintain, like, do I do every week? I was like, no, like you feel your body, you feel what release or what exercise gave you the biggest benefit, and then you can run with that for the rest of your life. Like the whole, say the forward head posture program, the whole thing is like it's a lot of stuff, right? It's for someone that's just never done anything. But as you go through it, you're learning with your body, and then you start to connect and know which ones to use or what one was really tight. And it, like, what was it? That girl wrote in on like my hamstring. Like, people don't understand how powerful foam rolling and deep tissue is. Like it's a concept, and even in the industry, it's like even in uni and that, everyone thinks about it as like you foam roll that area to bring, there's still a bit of length or a bit of freedom in that area, but only if that area is sort of tight. But they're thinking of it like foam rolling that quad is just doing that quad, but that quad's linked to that front of the shin, and that quad's linked to the lower abdominals, and that lower abdominals is linked to your sternum, and that sternum's linked to your neck and pulling your head forward, and shoulders a fucking mid-back thing, But where I'm at now is I think everybody, and eventually we'll do that deep tissue course, right? But I think everyone will benefit from foam rolling. And even though we've been taught that, if you're really hypermobile, it may make things worse, which is true. But if you tie it with a bit of like stiffening straight away, like you foam roll on exercise afterwards, then you can reset it. I just think like we shouldn't have trigger points all through our body. And I just felt what it's done for me is when I clean out every single trigger point in my body that I know of, and I'm talking like fucking wrists and forearms and little random spots, and people think they're right when they're using like a soft roller, but once you go deep, you realize, oh, there's shit below there, and you wonder what that little kink in the cobweb is doing to your movement patterns and how you're compensating somewhere down the chain that could be creating pain.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tissue work's huge. So we did want to get into like forward head, really, and like, because now we've released that forward head posture program, and just like concepts around it, what could be doing it, how to correct it, and variables about that. Because week 1 of our program is just deep tissue, and we started at the quads, didn't we? I think we did. I think the first thing was the quads. Yeah. So if you have a forward head, right, there's a bunch of fascia, which is just the connective sticky shit, right? The cobweb that I try and talk about from your feet, but let's just say from the quads, right? Imagine those quads, those hip flexors, you have a cobweb trigger point in there, right? Like it's just short, right? And it's dry. And then if that's tilting your pelvis forward, and you're having an anterior tilt, that anterior tilt is then pulling your lower abdominals, which is then pulling your upper abdominals and middle abdominals, right? It's pulling up the abdominals, pulling into the sternum, running up those two thick sort of, they're called SCMs or sternocleidomastoid, right? Which is the two thick parts of your neck, running to the occipital, the suboccipitals at the base of your skull, that then hyperextend your neck, pull your head forward, compress the back of your neck, can create tension headaches. It can fuck with your eyes too, because the suboccipitals are linked to your eyes. So you can put your thumbs in the back of your, back of your skull, like deep under, move your eyes and you'll feel that move. So it's not separate, right? And that's that's why we started at the quads, and people were like, why are we doing shit on our legs when we've got a forward head? But if you weren't, you'd be going to see every other person that will just be looking at your neck.
Well, I just think the pelvis is the most important thing for the forward head. Yeah. And that's why we started at the quads. And short, tight sternocleidomastoid. Yeah, hyperextends the neck, pulls the head forward, and then the hips come out to balance. Wherever the head goes forward, the hips will come out, and you'll get that kind of rounded kyphotic posture.
Yeah, rounded kyphotic posture that just doesn't look great. And it just doesn't look good, and it makes like the breast and the pec fascia sag. So it looks like your chest has more define, or breast would get perkier. But those quads, if you're someone that's like, fuck, I can never fire my lower abdominals, or I'm finding cores hard, no muscle fires well when it's pulled too short or too long. Imagine it like, I think of it like an elastic band that's constantly stretching and contracting, creating momentum that slings motion, right? So say the obliques around your rib cage, you rotate one way and they're sort of stretched out, and then as you rotate the other way, they contract in and sling you, like it's this constant oscillating elastic band. So say if a muscle is too short or too long, when it fires, it's firing from the non-optimal position. And how Susie talks about, like, it won't ever get that same peak output, and it will get off rhythm. So if we use the reference point saying our quad and our hamstrings, if you have really dominant quads, if you're doing a shitload of quad work and not a lot of hamstring work, or you just have weird movement patterns where your knees going over your toes every time you take a lunge, which I'm not against that sometimes, but you could do a lunge with your knees over your toes. You can't do as many, right? So I'm trying to listen to the body here. Like, all right, if my quad's burning out and stopping me, why can't I sort of sit my hips back a little bit and get them both contracting, like co-contraction? So if that quad's short, it means that hamstring's relatively long, right? Because the quad pulls the pelvis forward, tilt sticks your ass out, which will stretch those hamstrings. So then if you're hitting the ground for a stride and you got to get this contraction, it means the quad's it's already shortened, so it's going to contract a little bit quicker. Like, I'm talking 0.1 millisecond before the hamstrings will contract. But that 0.1 millisecond will then, as it crosses the patellar tendon, which is the front of your kneecap, will pull that shin forward. And then you're going to get a little bit of anterior, which means forward, shearing of that tibia on the patellar tendon on the ACL. And then, because the hamstring hasn't contracted to pull it back in time. So it obviously does contract, and you get a co-contraction that holds it. But if the quads are dominant, it's going to create a little bit of motion. And if you do that for fucking 10 years, that's going to matter. It means your ACL's time over tension, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. You're someone that doesn't eat collagen, the ACL can go, right? So it's all about the co-contractions, because when they contract together, it stays in its spot. But if one contracts before the other, it's going to move it that way. Or vice versa. If the hamstring contracted before the quads, it's going to move it back, and then it's going to strain your PCL. But why was I relating that to the neck or the tissue somehow?
You're talking about co-contraction.
Yeah.
And Susie talked about that heaps, about how she has that diagram she does with the two waves, and then the middle where you want to kind of blend them into one. Yeah. But I saw that the other day with a person who's super quad dominant, heaps of knee injuries, and I had him in a anterior oblique sling cable push, and he was just like, his quads just burnt out so damn quick, and it was because I had him back. Yeah, right. And they struggle. They were struggling. They just weren't working.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool just when you understand it like that. It's just that elastic band, and one's firing. It's just not going to be as strong. It's like and it's talking about, like, if I'm doing a bench press and my pecs are already short and tight, well, then when that contracts, it's not going to get as much sling and momentum to get the push, so you're not going to be as strong. But if you have that pec sort of somewhat neutral, you're going to get a nice strong contraction. But also, if you take it way too long, the contraction is going to be weaker, and you're not going to get the same momentum. So it's like, it's amazing. Isn't that amazing?
It is. And I guess it's like where we're trying to go with this is, like, the deep tissue stuff for the forward head posture program rehydrates the tissue and allows it to get back to to be able to fire optimally. Hey? So it gets it back into the optimal position. That way we can start to get the co-contractions right. And movement really is what's going to cement it in there. So I don't, there's such thing as the car park test where if you go to the car park and come back in, it's going to probably be back the same it is. Hey?
Yeah.
But the strength work in the posture program allows you to keep it there.
Yeah, it's like retentions you.
Yeah, movement is the key, really. But say if you just your muscles got knots and trigger points all through it, it speeds up the process massively. Hey.
Yeah, and a good analogy of what you're talking about with that wave loading thing is of, if your head's forward and you go to serve a tennis ball, it's got to move further than where it would have to. It's in a non-optimal position. You're not in a great position. It's got to move further. So it makes sense, right? And that's going to round you up and back out. So it's about rehydrating your tissue so it makes it malleable and makes it wet so it can slide and glide over things. And how much of a secret is it? Like from getting people out of pain quickly? Like even just like in the session to give them a bit of a magic they want.
There's nothing quicker.
Yeah, there's nothing quicker. You can stretch all day and it's not going to do that.
For sure.
I had a girl, or in that hamstring thing, right? She was saying, what was it? I was showing a hamstring stretch and she was like, it hurts my SIJ area, which is the SI joint. The SI joint is the sacrum and ilium, which is the pelvis and the sacrum, right? Funny that the sacrum, a little tip, right, is what was it? Oh, the sacrum is the
sacred bone.
Sacred bone because it didn't get burnt in.
It's the last thing to disintegrate.
Yeah,
like you burn a body.
Yeah,
how cool is that?
Yeah, and back in the day before we had the furnaces, it just would still be there. That's why it was sacred. But there's motion there. There's a little bit of motion there. So she was feeling pain at the SI joint doing a hamstring stretch. So I just told her in a comment, I haven't even seen this chick, and I was like, oh, that somewhat sounds like it's probably trying to stabilize the SI joint because the hamstrings pull it down. So I was like, try rolling out your quads, stretching it, and then taking a little bit of a ball in the lower back because if you're anteriorly tilted, you can imagine that lower back is short, it dries out. You need to get some tissue work in there to open that back up and give it some length, and then try the hamstring stretch. And then she wrote back in, she's like, completely worked. I can freed it up completely. So, she would have seen that was through an Instagram comment, you know what I mean? And I know, we're just confident in ourselves, but I know she could have seen fucking 20 people. Yeah. All these practitioners.
And could have got operated on. Yeah. That's the craziest thing. Like, it's crazy to me. And it just shows how kind of stupid a few things are in the world because you don't need to get operated on all the time, and all the recent studies on ACLs and things like that. Like the ACL surgery in itself, where they take a graft from the hamstring, and the hamstring's trying to stop the knee from going medial. So the ACL is as well. So you're taking its final thing that's trying to hold it there. Doesn't that make fucking no sense? Yeah.
Well, it's what we were talking about before, that quad pulling it forward, and the hamstring's meant to hold it from pulling it forward. The ACL stops it from pulling it forward.
So you're taking its final defense.
And then you're weakening the hamstring. Yeah. It's because they've all learned, and the industry has learned anatomy on a body that's laying down on the ground, on the table. Yes. That's dead generally, right?
Yeah.
When you're standing, everything changes, right? That Gary Gray shit we talked about.
Yeah.
The hamstring flexes the knee towards your bum, but it doesn't really. Gravity flexes the knee.
Yeah.
That shit's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? On a standing body.
Yeah.
So the hamstring stops the tibia from sliding forward, which is a brake. Everything's just a brake, right?
Yeah,
Everything just stops the momentum. So once you get the momentum going, you just got to slow it down. But funny you said about surgery. I got a client, shout out to Shane, he's probably listening to this, right? They wanted to fuse his spine. He come in probably 6 weeks ago now. Come in hobbling, man, left and right, full pain. He couldn't go down to his knees without it being a 30-second thing. You know what I mean? And it's the flattest back you've ever seen, a straight lumbar spine. So obviously he's lost all rotation because it's all just stretched out. So how we spoke about the spine before, right? If it's a flat lumbar spine, that type 2 collagen at the end of the disc on tension is really getting, work. It's putting Ks into it like a car. Compared to if you had a bit of a neutral curve, it would have a bit of slack in there and not so tight. And as we talk about, if it's pulled long, well then the same thing as the quad hamstring analogy, it's not going to fire well when it needs to, right? Because it's stretched out long, so it's going to be weak, right? He had super tight. Anyway, they want to fuse his spine. He had surgery, had disectomy, and then it made it worse. So he had nerve pain running down his right leg. When he got the surgery, it all started running down his left leg really bad. And they're like, it didn't work. We need to book you in for a fusion straight away. And this is what I mean. He's seen all these people and no one measured his pelvis. His left pelvis was 8 degrees inverted. So your pelvic tilt, if you're listening, say as a male, should be 4 to 7 degrees, roughly, right? 4 to 7 degrees tilted forward. His was back to zero, then
Reverse.
eight degrees up. So it was like it was belt buckles pointing at the roof by 8 degrees, which is a lot, you know, that's fucking heaps.
Yeah, so the lumbar spine's just completely loaded.
Yeah, lumbar spine completely loaded, stretch, and 8 degrees inverted on the left, and it was 6 on the right. So they were both bad, but the left one was worse.
Imbalanced.
So he come in the other day, he's walking in fine. He went for a surf the other day. This is crazy quick, man. He probably shouldn't have. He definitely shouldn't have. But and he's not out of the woods yet. He's got like a year of healing ahead of him, you know.
Yeah.
But at least his quality of life's back, and he can walk around without pain and shit. And I checked his pelvis, and it had a 2-degree tilt on the left, which is still flat, but it's getting there.
Fuck yeah.
And all we gave him was a hamstring stretch. I put it in the Instagram. Have a look at that. I just posted it. It's hamstring stretch / disc bulges. And that was such a good choice for him because he had a flat back. So he's sticking his ass out by contracting the lumbar spine, sticking his leg out, stretching the hamstring. So he's creating a lumbar curve contraction while the hamstrings are getting a stretch because the hamstrings are pulling his pelvis down, pushing the disc out. And man, I'm like, he doesn't need surgery now. And they were going to fuse his spine. Like fucking 4 weeks ago, they were going to fuse his spine. 6 weeks ago. So how crazy is that? Yeah, he would have been fucked. Like 10 years from now, his next one goes. Because if you fuse an area of the spine, it has to become mobile somewhere else. So you're putting these two segments together, which means above or below will start moving for it. And then that one goes. And then you fuse that, and then that one goes. So if you look into the research of it, it's not a very good outlook when you start doing that. Okay. And in how Susie talks about a lot of the pain, he's got no disc height left, but the pain is from the chemical reaction of the inflammation of the area. So once you can heal the area, even when the spine looks fucked, they can still be pain free. So if you're someone that has a scan and it's all stenosis and degenerative disc disease and all this sort of shit, don't be afraid, because everyone that gets a scan will have something like that. But if you can get healthy with inflammation wise, your food, water, diet, which I believe is most of it, which this guy did, he did bone broth and everything, and he did the parasite cleanse, then and just get strong around it and balance this stuff, which means make your left and right feel the same, which is what we've done in the forward head posture program. You can you can change your whole life and have a quality of life back. But it's hard for people to know that, right? Who are they going to go to if they're not local to here?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I guess that's why we created the online programs to help in some way. But it's not the same as coming to see a good Czech practitioner. But yeah, it's like that's the thing with the programs, as we said earlier. It's about understanding your own body and creating a relationship with it. It's like, you know, the diet is 80% of it. The diet's massive, especially for disc injuries. Disc injuries have been my hardest things to heal because it takes so long. Any good physio will tell you it's 500 days. So, yeah, I mean, you can get people out of pain quickly, but and I believe you can like re-centralize discs.
Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah,
like I mean, it's just the way the spine's sitting. Yeah,
it just absorbs it. Happens heaps.
So discectomy is just crazy to me.
Yeah, it's like there's only a time if it's wrapping around the nerve root and shit.
Yeah, and there is times for that shit, but like, man, a lot of the time it's fixable.
Yeah, if it's just touching it, like fuck.
Unless it got a really like structural scoliosis or something that's just over time. Yeah, you know, like even then you can still do things to help it. I think you can really try things naturally every time. Yeah, you know, do the best you can. And you know, we're $2,000 to see, but we're also like, if you go to surgery, it's a lot more than that. Yeah. It's such a gamble worth taking. Yeah. It's like,
well, I paid Donald, so do you. I paid Donald $2,750 and I had no pain. But I just wanted to like learn, and obviously my job. So,
well, that's rare, man. And pain's a massive motivator. Like for me, I had so much pain. Yeah. And that's like, I wouldn't have cared what it was. Like everything stopped. Like there wasn't like relationship problems. There wasn't anything else. It was just like my pain go away.
Yeah, that's what this guy's like, man. And I knew he was going to do it. He's done everything. He's done the program every day. He's done like the cumin. He's done the fish oil. He's on the bone broth. He's eating clean. He's lost weight. And he was an overweight guy, but fuck, he lost water weight or something. You know, that's weight that's now off the spine. And we haven't even really loaded him. We haven't done, like, you go to people, they're like, hey, you need to start squatting. You need to start doing light deadlifts and stuff. And I'm like, fuck, nah, I don't reckon he does. Like, he needs to do body weight, long endurance, time on attention that holds tone, because tonic fibers hold tone. They stabilize the joints before you worry about like picking up something heavy that's unnecessary, you know? Yeah. I just don't think, I think we, people go, I think like we don't need to go heavy, you know what I mean? Unless you want to, right? Unless it's for your sport or something. But I don't think there's anything that's for longevity that you need to go really heavy with.
Definitely
things.
not longevity.
Yeah.
For definitely sure. Not longevity. I don't think you need anything other than body weight stuff, but the feeling of going heavy is so good. I love that feeling, and I love the feeling of speeding up the body and I don't know, it's cool.
Yeah, like so for me, so to make my spine not load as much, like because I'm not great at deadlifts, you're really good at them, so I don't do heavy deadlifts, but I'll go like single leg Bulgarians. So I'm using one leg, which means I can use a lot less weight and just put the weight to one side or something. So I'm getting this very catabolic response still without having to load the spine so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the program, right? What was week 2 was just, week 2 was stretching, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So week 1, okay, this is for not just this program, right? I just think for rehabbing anyone, right? Week 1, not just week 1, sorry, session 1, hydrate your tissue. And in the forward head posture program, we've really orientated around the head being forward, right? But really, if you're someone listening and you just want to go hard, like when I did it, I hydrated my whole body, like toes, fucking calves, behind the knee, forearms, neck, everything. All right. And I was doing 3 hours a day myself when I first got into that stuff. So it takes some time, but it gets easier. And pain's the teacher. Once it stops hurting, then you don't need to do that as much anymore, right? But if you're doing it and it's coming straight back, then you know there's a movement thing, right? Because it's only step 1. It just makes it malleable, but we got to change the movement patterns because the movement patterns have created that dehydration in the tissue. It's just a contraction. So if your hips are forward and your calves are contracting all day long to push your hips back, your calves are going to get tight, and you roll it out, they're going to be tight again the next week. So you need to do exercises and things that are going to center your gravity so there's not a tight sponge that's just contracting all day, pushing all the water out. That sponge needs to oscillate, open and close, so it stays wet. Right? If it stays long or short, it'll dry out. And then week 2 was just specific stretching. We did like the quads and pecs and SCMs. We did like just the whole neck, didn't we?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's the difference, like with stretching and deep tissues. It really gives you a feeling of holding a position in your body.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I like that. I love that feeling of holding the quad, stretching, and like you said, raising the hip, and just like, you're in good form and you can feel for the first time and you're like, hey, that's where my body needs to be. But the two together are the most powerful fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
There's not one. You can't just stretch dry dehydrated tissue. You need to do some deep tissue work on it, even if it's just a little bit. Like we see it every day when Ian showed us the stuff, and you're already onto it with functional pattern stuff. But like I really saw it in that. I was like, wow, we can get 15, 20, 30 degrees just from rolling the quad. So you need to do that. The two together are just phenomenal. Yeah,
and like I had a guy recently, he's like, man, I've been stretching for months and I haven't got to this, and he got it there in fucking 2 minutes,
Yeah, like some people don't respond well to stretching, I found. Like some people really respond well to stretching. Some people respond way better to deep tissue. Yeah. I think we're also unique,
Yeah,
in our tissue.
Yeah, but I think everyone responds better to both.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think like for me, my own body, I won't stretch my muscle unless I've rolled it out first. And it could be a fucking 10-second roll out, but I'm just going to wet it a little bit, right? And if it's a bad area, I'm going to go to 2 to 5 minutes, really breaking that area up, moving it. All right, say it's my quad, I'll just start bending my knee on a little trigger point, and then I'll stretch it. And then you use the stretch, and for the people that have done doing the forward head posture program or the lumbar curve programs, whichever ones, I really want you to make sure that when you do the stretch, you don't just sit there and just stretch to count your time. Like you want to feel where is that stuck. Don't think tight, think stuck, right? Think sticky. So if you're doing a quad stretch, where in the quad? Put a finger on it. Is it low? Is it high? Is it medial, lateral, high, everywhere. And then you come off the quad stretch and go back to the deep tissue work and clean it out. This shit's gold. This is the sort of stuff that'll keep you mobile to the day you die, So I really, really believe that, right? And then week 3 and 4 was just exercises. We had one exercise at end of week 2, I think, just for those people that could be hyper. Okay. It was just the seated lean thing.
Yeah, that's right. Like
We don't have names for shit. It's just like
the seated lean.
Yeah, you basically sit in a chair. You imagine tucking your chin, holding a tennis ball between your chin and your sternum, and you just lean back a little bit, and you'll feel that will load the head because it'll want to fall back in the suboccipitals in the base of your skull. But you'll use your deep cervical flexors to stop that, which everyone's weak at. And then you get in this subtle little contraction, right? And as long as you get the good time and attention, it sort of sticks. Yeah. So you want a good 3 minutes of this sort of stuff.
Yeah. We're targeting type 1 muscle fibers. So it's more, it's long time under tension.
Long time.
You don't want to that's probably the biggest misconception out there at the moment, hey?
Yeah, I reckon,
people kind of like think going to the gym and working on posture could be like, say, 10 reps of like a bench press and with a good chest up.
Yeah, or a row or something. They'll do like a seated row and get big, but it's not about getting big. It's about holding tone.
It's about holding tone. So we need the tonic fibers.
Yeah. So type 1 fiber, they resist they endurance. They're endurance fibers. It's the same as if you're doing an endurance athlete, right? But they hold tone because they're tonic. So when they hold tone all day long. So,
I'll get it.
Oh yeah, you got that? Sorry, the camera just fucking. There we go. Lucky I turned it this way. I forgot all about that. It holds tone. So if same thing for rehab, right? If you have some lumbar disc shit, you want that long tone because it's going to hold your spine all day long. If you're someone that gets up in the morning and your back hurts more at the end of the day than the start of the day, that's telling me it needs more tone because it's losing tone, it's getting motion, and then you're getting pain, right? So you'd be really surprised how much, and it's boring shit.
Yeah, but it's just easier to stand up. Like when I started doing tonic fiber work, I just remember standing in lines and being like, oh my God, like I don't feel fatigued. I could stand up all day.
Yeah.
I don't need to, and the biggest thing is like that 3 minutes of time under tension carries over to the 12 hours of standing up all day.
Yeah.
Or sitting down and then getting up. Like it holds tone, so it keeps you straight. And that's why this program is just targeting tonic fibers mainly at the start.
Yeah. And it just gets you there, right? And then it's about you keeping it there. It's about training your posture and the emotion into your movement. So once you get your head back doing that or your pelvis there, it means you get a reference point. You get good because you're practicing it. So you start getting used to the feeling of it. But then whatever exercise you do, if you do a push-up, you bring your head there. You don't let your head sag forward when you push up. Otherwise, you'll get up and your head will be forward. So it is, and where I'm going these days too, I reckon there's a lot of, I know we already know about the psyche and that, but once you train posture in, it almost changes your emotions a little bit when you put yourself there. It's like I don't know what it is. It's like a testosterone or a dopamine or something. When you have a good posture, you feel confident. And I believe also it's about triggering that in your head and pulling yourself there as much as possible too. Because then if you've got the tonic fibers to already train, it doesn't feel like it's like hard to hold yourself there, you know? So I think it's both, right? It is getting it there, but don't letting yourself just sag in and make yourself look small because you can do all the shit in the world.
And I think that should be done. Like that's the first thing. Hey, it's like the mental, emotional, that area, that energy area, you know, that guy had the inverted pelvis, like first, second chakra. And I think like with the HAQ questionnaire, when you can see what chakra is really being affected by it, like sometimes, like for instance, one of my clients, he changed his body, but then he came into me after 1 week and was like, I quit my job. I did this. And I was like, there's no coincidence that happens. Eh? Yeah. It's like once you change your body, you change your life.
Yeah, it's momentum.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying too. I reckon when you change your body, your mindset changes a little bit too.
Without a doubt. So I wonder what's like, you know, can you change the mental, emotional? Should you change, you know, because it's higher on the hierarchy, should we change that first or should we change the body first? I mean, what's more powerful? I know one affects the other.
Yeah, so I think about this. I think change the body first because I think the other starts changing with it, and then the momentum of that is easier than the momentum of someone that look a little small and like, you know what I mean? People get more confident when they put on size and shit. Yeah, it's coupled together. Yeah, so at the same time, really,
it's coupled together, and I don't think people understand quite enough how you can't solve a problem from the same brain that created it. So you can't use your thinking mind to solve the thinking mind problem. So I think you're right. Like movement does change everything. Like I remember Jan would get people she's like, all right, from now on, you brush your teeth with your left hand instead of your right, or you eat your dinner, you swap your knife and fork around, like little changes like that. And she said if they don't do that, she doesn't work with them. Yeah. And I thought that's fucking so cool.
Yeah. And you told me she'd get people to do 7-minute prone cobras if they're a surfer or something. Like super long prone cobras. So that's those tonic fibers we're talking about. Like a prone cobra is where you just lay on your belly and extend your back, and you feel how long you can really hold that for. That's your whole posterior chain, your back chain. Yeah. And if someone wants to surf for 3 hours, they want to be able to do a 3-minute prone cobra at least. As a standard for humans, we like to see people be able to do 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a really good rule of thumb to break down those type 1 fibers. And if you do want to break down those type 1 fibers and you can't make 3 minutes during any exercise, like say I'm giving you bridges for your ass, I want you to do 3 minutes of them, you know? If you can't do 3 minutes, then you don't rest for longer than 30 seconds. That's just a really good thing to take away if you're someone rehabbing right now, doing any injury. So all those external, like instead of counting reps, you know, and it's not really the reps we're worrying about. Like say when I write a program for someone, the reps are in there, but the tempo's in there. But in my head, I'm thinking of what's the total time and attention. So it's not just 10 reps every time, you know?
No.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool for people listening to understand that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Jan would also get Mick Fanning to, like he wasn't allowed to surf more than an hour.
Yeah, right.
So he would go out for an hour. He'd come in and rehydrate, refuel, and then go back out.
Yeah, cool.
On the dot.
That's such a good idea because then you got that. You're not fatiguing, are you?
Yeah, you're not going hypoglycemic. Like most, definitely all surfers that surf for longer than an hour, like the energy output, I've seen it because I surf a lot, is so high. That's why you get so hungry. But your blood sugar drops so low. Yeah. So I would have got so good at just like, activating on low blood sugar. But I honestly remember I'd get to about 3 or 4 hours in the session. I'd start cramping and I'd just get that feeling of like not being here. It's like a disassociative feeling because my nervous system has now gone into that disassociative state where it's like, get food or we're fucked.
Yeah. And how when you fatigue, you lose sort of that proprioceptive feedback because the lactic acid inhibits that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Hence why all injuries happen in like the last 10 minutes of a game usually, let's say soccer. So for you, with your spine of you bodyboarding, landing on the flat, you're going to probably lose that ability of co-contract to stop your spine sliding forward, or him with his knees.
Yeah. Well, definitely it took, I don't know, mine was a gradual injury. It wasn't like one thing that just went like boof. I mean, it was, but 100%, like just no idea. No nutrition.
Yeah, no collagen, hey?
Nah, no nutrition, no collagen. I was drinking Coca-Cola and partying and drinking beer and Jim Beam. Like I used to think Jack Daniels was the best. I remember I drank on my 17th birthday, dude. I drank 14 cans.
Wow, yeah.
And then I woke up the next day and I tried to start drinking again at like 2.
Whoa.
And I was like, I feel so depressed. And I still remember going, why do I feel so depressed? Like everyone else can do this.
Yeah.
I was running on 0 sleep, hardly any sleep, and just like 14 cans of sugar. Fuck, man.
I've never been crazy. Like the boys could always bender, but when I saw the sun come up, man, it was home time for me. I was like, whoa, because I was like, how do you do this? I don't understand. How do you keep drinking after I haven't slept and I feel fucked, And I was just thinking, like I was thinking about my body as if it's like almost like a friend. And this is before I was into health. I was just like, okay, how can I do this to myself? Like this is me,
Yeah. Fucking oath, dude.
And also some news is we are nearly releasing the new Parasite Cleanse 2.0, which will be probably mid-September. We're going to do a group cleanse. So it's going to be sick because we're due. It's probably been a year. We like to do it like once every 6 months to a year, depending how,
You just feel like you need it, eh? Especially I need that break off coffee yearly. Like I need 2 months off coffee every year.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's all the binders and that, but it's pretty cool because we've fucking gone all out. We've changed the product to be a bit more parasite killy, which they already were doing it, but like less having to go to the toilet so much and more just killing parasites. It's called the new product we called Extract for the second one, but it's like just a little bit different. It'll bind everything for heavy metals and that. But we also all the I think we're one of the only two, Cindy was saying that does this, tested all the capsules for glyphosate. So all the gelatin capsules, which fucking cost a lot extra to test for glyphosate. So it's just above and beyond. You know what I mean? Because I was like, fuck, if people doing cleanses and healing their gut, but there's a little bit of glyphosate, which is everyone knows about that shit now. And it could be things are organic with glyphosate in it. No one really knows that stuff. That's how, that's how broad that is. So Cindy's gone all out for that. And it's going to be cool. I can't wait. I'm clean. Like I'm really keen to just clean myself out again. And fuck, you just save money, eh?
Dude.
Crazy how much money I save.
The sickest thing ever. It's like my reset on life. And I know, all the science behind it. So I understand why. It's fucking so good. But dude, I was thinking this morning, no, actually we talked about it a month ago or something like that, but my whole body just went fucking nuts for this. It was like, yes, we've got to create a man product.
Yeah.
Like ASAP.
Yeah, true.
I was just thinking like we need like liver, heart, all that kind of shit in a capsule.
Yeah, testicles, man. We need to get hold of some testicles.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, testicles.
Yeah, I need some big nuts.
Yeah, well, the story, like we said it in the potty before, but Jake, when he was like mid fucking COVID, had like lost no sex drive and shit, and then had these testicles, and then woke up with a hard on in the middle of the night. Yeah, so I was like, "Fuck, that's a really good signal from the body." Hey,
yeah, and in the morning, eh?
And in the morning, like, and that's unusual. Hey, like,
yeah, so unusual. Yeah, like, sometimes I'll wake up with a massive erection, and I need to go to the toilet and stuff like in the morning.
Yeah,
but like
that's it's a sign
rare,
of health.
It's really rare that I wake up in the middle of the night with a hard on, just like. And I was just like, what the fuck? And it happened 2 nights in a row when I started taking, Manpower. Yeah. Which was sick. So, yeah, I'd love to figure out a way how to get that, like, kind of oyster zinc in it as well. Like, true. Like that beef liver, beef heart.
Doesn't exist,
testicles. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And, fuck, maybe we shouldn't be saying this on the air because cunts would know. Yeah. I love that shit. All the power to you.
Yeah, I know. It's all help in the world. You do whatever you want.
Exactly.
We were saying the other day, like, there's then people around sort of caring that other clubs open up near them, and same like say jiu-jitsu clubs, like, oh, this person's here, and we're like, man, we wouldn't give a fuck if there's a exact same as a corrective culture, different name, obviously. I'd probably care if they sell the name, but anyway, next door to us, I would not give a fuck, like, because it's like, don't worry about what no one else is doing, because you just gotta have, and I sort of know no one else is doing what we're doing anyway, so it gives us a bit of confidence. But it's like, that's the mistake. If you think of lack, if you think of that shit, this person was saying that there's not a lot of people the jiu-jitsu market's already flooded, and I'm like, what, man? I was like, it's like 99.8% of people, probably more, don't do jiu-jitsu. I was like, what do you mean it's flooded? Like, it's, if you just build the place and make it great, your tribe will come around you. How's the like female jiu-jitsu we've started, right? That all these other clubs have sort of tried that, but they don't. It's a masculine place they've built, you know what I mean? And they don't get like, oh, I started a female club, no class, so it's not a club, so class, and no girls turned up, so girls don't want to do it. And then as soon as we started it, we had 32 girls rock up, because it's the way, the energy you put out, the way you marketed it, and it's just like a nice soft place that these girls don't have to do push-ups or have to roll with someone way larger than them. It's just like dudes, it's just understanding females, you know, and understanding that we're different and the energy's different, and you got to support them. So it's like,
it's all about the energy you come at it with. And also I think that one thing since starting Corrective Culture is like, I do this because not for the money. Like, I love my job and I love the things we create together, and I love the jiu-jitsu. It's not about money. And as soon as it's about money, like even you said at the start with this jiu-jitsu club, it's like we could probably take a wage from it now, but we were just like, yeah, but it's not about the money. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, also I look forward to it. It's like, it's crazy. Like, it's 3 nights a week and I look forward to it. I'm like, can't believe we get paid for this. And because we've done so much and we actually aren't seeing the money yet. We're seeing it in the shit we're buying for the company.
In an asset for the company.
But not in our own life. You know what I mean? We just do our own clients, make our own money, but all the online sales and stuff, it just goes straight back in. It goes into like the sauna, it goes into now we want an ice bath, goes into, we just get the best shit. We want mats, so we got the best mats. We wanted like wall pads, so we got the best wall pads. Don't half-ass that shit. If you're building your dream, this is what I care about. I don't care about
like this podcast setup, man. It's fucking like, we've probably got 10, 12 grand sitting here right now on a podcast setup. Yeah. And it's like, and that's what the coolest thing is about it. Like I don't want to go half-ass into it. It's not about the money. I just did 60 shoots and got paid $1,000 a day to shoot video. And that's amazing fucking money. But it helped set up the dream. But I was unhappy because I was not doing what I loved. And I just think like in life, it's so important to find what you love and not do it for the money. Like if you can take the money out of it, and I know it's just cliche, Alan Watts has said it 1,000,000 times, but it's so fucking true. It's so true. And I don't want to be a part of anything that's about, like I see all these people making all this big money and, you know, real estate agents is a great example, and they make a lot of money, but a lot of them aren't very happy. And it's like, cause think about the drive is to make more money. Yeah. You know, I guess some would really love the hustle and the bustle of that. But for me personally, I don't want to yuck your yum, but I'm like, that's what I want to do in life is help people and feel.
Yeah, you get a good high from it. Hey, it's better than any cocaine you can ever have, right? It's just like when someone
it's like a purpose. It's like, don't you feel like it's like nothing really made sense to me until I started helping people. It just like in my heart, I felt like, okay, well, this is fulfilling. Yeah. Everything else I've ever done hasn't felt fulfilling. Even when I was bodyboarding, people would tell me I'm sick or whatever, and I felt empty. It's like, yeah, but you're not me. I had people telling me I had the dream life, and I fucking hated my life.
Yeah, so, true. And you were traveling the world, fucking.
It sucked. Yeah. I'd never had any money, never had any security. No wonder I had a lower back injury, man. I was always broken, always felt like I never had a tribal association. I never felt like I had a home. Now I would never give that up for the world. I'll go travel, but I'll have money and I'll come back to a house that I love.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, fuck that shit.
What was I was sort of forgetting, like Paul talks about, like once, like I was somewhat suppressed when I was scaffolding. I was like, oh, this is all right. You get to build things, and it's like Lego. Like creative, and you know. And then I was, but really deep down, I was like, fuck. I'm meant to do more than this. Like I'm meant to be bigger than this. I was like, I feel like big is the right word, but I felt like I was meant to do something big, and I had no avenue of that in scaffolding. And I was like, how do you start something from there? And I was suppressing it, and I knew that shit would have popped out, you know, probably, you know, when I was 40 or something, like midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And how Paul talks about, like, once you get that idea or that little bit of
spark,
that spark that will be there, and that will just constantly slowly grow bigger and bigger of doubt in what you're doing or whatever it is, until you listen to it, until it makes you make the big step or the big career change where it's scary, where you're losing money because we've been cultured to believe we need this amount of money. But it's funny how when you go do it, short term it doesn't, but long term, fuck, it pays off way more, you know, way more. So whatever you're good at, if you're passionate about it, you'll make money doing that, and everything's a belief. Everything's a fucking belief. So I believe you can do anything. Okay, it's pretty incredible.
Do you think, like, because obviously we need fast food workers, we need people in this world that do the mundane jobs that, like, you know, I'm just thinking about it as a like, if you feel that spark, like, there's nothing wrong with being the happiest garbage person out there. Like, I fucking respect the shit out of that if you're happy.
Yeah.
But if you're not happy and you want to try something different, that's what we're talking about. Like, that spark that could be like, oh, I want to kind of be in health. Like, I just want to empower everyone. Like, how crazy is how many of our clients have just started studying Czech?
Yeah, I know.
They're just like, oh, fuck, I want to learn this, because they've felt the benefits for themselves, and they could probably just feel that we're happy and helping people.
Like the latest IMS course, Tommy said that, like, heaps of them are there just because they listen to this podcast. I'm like, what, fuck, there's so many kids that change their whole life, man, that just because they listen to us. And we don't really see that. I mean, people write into us and that, but we forget, you know?
Yeah, it makes me feel weird, to be honest. It's like, I always felt like that whenever someone would say something with bodyboarding. I feel the same when someone's like, oh, I listened to that and now I'm doing this with my life. I don't know why. It makes me feel kind of like not good enough or something.
Like, hard to take the compliment. Like,
yeah, I struggle to take the compliment, but like, really I should just
imposter
be like,
imposter syndrome, they call that. Yeah, like, oh, why are you listening to me? I'm just doing this, like, fuck, you know? And I know.
Yeah, what is that? Is that a survival kind of like...
So trying to be modest, I guess. I don't know what it is.
I think it's my conditioning, man. Yeah. From school. Like, it was never cool to be like... And skating and stuff, it was never cool to be like the guy that's like, I'm fucking ripping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, and that's in most cultures, right? You look at anyone's post that's confident, there'll be people trying to bring down any, and it's always the people that, it's funny, it's even you see in crew, like, it's always the people that have lack of confidence that'll they'll say the most about the person, the celebrity that has the most confidence, or the fighter. They'll hate that fighter. They'll hate that, like Conor McGregor or this or this. It's like the ones that don't want to take the dive are the ones that really want to bring others down to it, because it makes them afraid of their own potential. And I think I was the same, man, at one stage. I think, it's crazy. I think Conor McGregor has a bit of a play in like my choices in life and shit, just because we loved him when we were young.
Yeah.
And he's not like the perfect role model by far. It's like anyone. You just take shit from anyone. And if they say something you don't like, who cares? Listen to the things that they do like, you know, and just take what you want from anyone in front of you and evolve.
No one's... You just don't put anyone on a pedestal anymore. I don't. And it's like, no one has all the answers for you, but take the best from everyone, because there's some fucking good shit. There's amazing people out there. I try and limit myself with who I hang out with. Like, I hang out with like 3 people, because my real friends are like Tony Robbins and fucking people that I listen to on the internet.
I was just about to say Tony Robbins, man. That's funny you said that. I was literally about to drop some Tony Robbins. I think about... It was a really cool thing. Hopefully it's still on Netflix, man. It fucking nearly made me cry.
Unleash the Power Within. That
I think it might have been that, yeah. And that girl, that girl came on and she was like, my dad's, you know, drug, he's done this and all this. And then he was like, cool. He's like, all right, so now what's the good that he's done? Like, okay, you got to blame him for all the bad, but make sure you blame him for the good. And he's like, is he the only man you could ever love? Is he? Because believe me, like, he hates himself more than you hate him for doing this stuff, and he just is. And just flipped it in a way that she was just seeing the bad. It's just seeing everything. It's being aware. It's being aware of everything and not blaming anyone. Like, I now look at even people that commit crimes and shit. Like, from when I went to jail, man, when I saw crew that were, you know, the crime was fucked, you know, not like rape shit, right? But like, well, even that, like anger, you know what I mean? But I mean, like, the crew that I hung around with, obviously anyone that did any sex shit was in protection. But people that were like, one guy was like, I had two backpackers chuck their stuff in the back of my car, and I just drove off. And he goes, I just looked in the rearview mirror, and they're just going like, ah. And he goes, I got their passports and flicked them for $1,000 each and shit. And I was like, man, this guy was beautiful. Like, he's the nicest dude ever. He was on crack, so that's why he did it.
Yeah.
But I realized like they just are, and they are because they were all from the same area, which says something, right? They're all from that area, and that I am from my experiences, and they are from their experiences, and their dad used to bash them, and they do this, and all their friends got in crack, so they got on crack. So they just are, and they're not just, you can't just hate them. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really freeing. Even when I listen to people talk about like these people running the world and the Bill Gates and all this shit, I know they're all doing shit that's not great, but they probably think they're doing shit that's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They think they're...
Yeah, you can't judge them because, like, you're not in their world, hey?
Yeah.
Their world would just be so fucking different to what we have, eh?
Yeah, it's like they almost, again, they're putting them on a pedestal for how evil they are, as if they're better than all of us with their evilness. It's like, they're just a fucking person. They're going to be dead. They're going to be dead the same as we're going to be dead. And 1 million years from now, none of this shit's going to happen. In a fucking 400 million years, whatever it is, we won't even be here. So
yeah,
it's
and that's, man, isn't it freeing? Like, because you just see all these people with all this stuff, and Ram Dass is like, if you want to get happy, give all of your stuff away. And I think less is so much more in this life. I used to look up to people that were famous, and now I actually feel sorry for them, and I never want to be like that. I want to be quiet and solid in myself.
In control, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to have, even if I had millions of dollars, you know, unless it was for a joke, I'd buy a Lamborghini and just like laugh about it. But really, I understand that it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And the garden of life isn't like that. Like, you're not going to feel fulfilled with all of that stuff. You're going to feel fulfilled, you know, having a sauna and going outside and having a swim in the cold ocean. That's honestly, lately, that is what fulfills me with that new gym membership. Is I'm going in there and I'm having a sauna, and when I sit down in that sauna and I go, this is it. This is why I'm here, because this is my body. I feel good being this organism.
Feel good in the present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel good in the present, exactly. And like, I've chased materials, I've chased women, chased all that stuff, and it leads to like unhappiness or unfulfillment.
Yeah.
The only real true joy that I get is when I am doing like my meditation, or when I have that moment of that, like in the ocean, where you're just like, you know, when we're in the pool in Cronulla on the new blog, and we jumped in, and it was just like that. Fuck, how good is this?
Yeah.
That moment, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, there's no money involved. When you're doing jiu-jitsu, when you're doing things that you can't buy.
That's it. You can't buy that. You can't buy a black belt.
Yeah.
You can't fucking... it's so much hard work, man.
Yeah. That's why I respect people that have all their shit together on all fronts. Like, I don't give the money's great, but like a lot of people have money. So it's like, I respect people that control their health. They're in control of what they put into their mouth. I'm like, fuck, that's one of the hardest ones out of all of it. Like, being and I'm not fully there yet. You know, I still slip up here and there.
I think it's like balance, like 80-20, like for sure.
Yeah, like, but it's not really 80-20 for Paul and that too, because there's so much control. It's like, that doesn't serve me at all. You know, there's levels, there's elder shit, right?
Yeah, well, he talks about like having popcorn and shit. Like, true. I mean, it's organic popcorn. Obviously. Like, we feel shit when we eat bad, 100%. Like, when we had those chicken palmies before thing, like, that was the worst thing you could have done. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, and especially with their body, like a good body represents someone that's in control of their movement and their foundations. And then if they're reading and they're saying intelligent things, or just, you know, you just see people like how you talk about like Whitey and shit, like he's himself. I haven't even met the dude.
I know. What I mean? If there's anyone I could fucking, like, I had this quote, it's called "What Would Whitey Do?" And I just go WWWD.
WWW what?
WWWD or WWD. What would Whitey do?
Right, yeah.
So 3 W's and a D. And I'd use that in my life because fuck, man, he's embodied the king archetype in every way. He's got an amazing family. He's if you want to follow this guy, it's chris.whitey on Instagram. And he started me. He made this tension video series, and it blew up, and he made a bunch of money from it when he was young. And but I always looked up to him, and when I met him, man, he just blew me away at how fucking nice he was and how together he had his whole life. Like, he just would be like, so I think he got like 4th in Ninja Warrior. That was last year. He's like 43. He's nearly a black belt. He's got a podcast called Grin Reapers. He's just done so much amazing shit in his life, and he just fully just puts himself out there. He remember once he said to me, "Oh, I'm struggling a little bit like in my head from some shit going on." He's had a pretty rough upbringing too. And he's like, I'm just going to turn it into a positive and make a book about mental health, a photography book about mental health. And it killed it.
Wow.
You know, like he's
just doing it, right? Just making a move.
Doesn't say it, man. Yeah. If there's anyone in this world, I respect him so much because he just goes, he'll be doing it and you'll be like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm halfway through this book.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that's powerful. Like, it's like Louis C.K. when dude, how good's this? Louis C.K. sitting on the plane and he goes, this old veteran got on the plane and I was sitting in my business class seat and he's like, wouldn't it be nice just to give him my seat? Like, that would be really nice. And then he's like, and then he goes, then he walked past and he goes, that was such a good thought. You know, I don't actually need to give him my seat because I feel so good from thinking about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember that, Yeah, I just didn't do it,
That's fucking my life sometimes. I'm just like, especially you have a coffee and you're like, fuck, I'm going to do this. I'm going to rip the lid off of this today and you talk about it.
Most people's life is the opposite. They think about doing something bad, they don't do it, and they judge themselves for doing it. That's the more common response to that, right? Everyone thinks they're doing all this shit. Even just having a bad thought about someone, like, oh, can't believe I thought that about them. And it's like, you didn't even act upon it.
Yeah.
We're meant to constantly think of opportunities, and it's the choice that you take from the opportunity in front of you that will reflect your life. So that's the secret. I mean, and we're all trying, but you know, we'll get there.
The mind is a hilarious thing. Like I've been battling with it the last week because I've had this thing going on in my throat, probably from a guillotine in jiu-jitsu. And I've got a history of cancer and death in my family that I'm scared of death, but I'm scared more so of the long period of dying sick. And it's been so much of like flipping the coin this week. It's like, oh yeah, this could be cancer. I could be dying. I could have a week to live. We all could. But I just flip the coin and go, no, I'm going to live a long, healthy life. And I flip the coin, but man, I just almost laugh at my thoughts. It's like, they come up every day. It's just like, if you're listening, just like know that you're not your thoughts. You can just, whatever thought that is that leads to a reaction, the reaction's way too far. You need to stop it. And just the more you practice on working on shutting those thoughts away, the better it is, eh?
Perfect thing to end on.
Yeah.
We said we're going to do a 20-minute potty. It's probably been fucking like, what's it say?
57.
Oh, perfect. All right. We like to keep it under an hour. It's nice if you're doing a drive.
Yeah, an hour's good, hey?
It's good.
3 is pretty full on.
So plug in Parasite Cleanse mid-September. Everyone jump on board. We're going to do a group one. We'll make a Facebook group so everyone can share recipes and shit. And I know you all want to do it. Everyone fucking, if you shit out of Parasite, trust me, it motivates you. I've never, but fuck, we see a lot of people.